So we're here celebrating the life of Dr. King. He would be 85 years old. He would have turned 85 on January 15th. We're here to celebrate his incredible legacy of nonviolence. We're here to celebrate the huge, gigantic impact he had on the peace movement, on Poor People's Campaign, on rights for racial justice, on just civil rights, human rights. But we have to also admit that Stevie Wonder worked hard to get King's birthday a holiday, partly because King had been shot dead. Shot dead by a Remington Game Master 30-06 rifle. A rifle that could deliver a bullet with 2,370 pounds of force, enough to knock down a rhinoceros. You can buy that gun on eBay right now for $285 if you want it. Despite rhetoric from the NRA, guns kill people. Haven't ever seen a gun get up and dance by itself, sing by itself, shoot somebody by itself. Guns kill people in people's hands. On the day that Dr. King was killed, I was 8 and in 4th grade, and I was at a nature preserve with some of my posse. We were out on the far south suburbs, and our teacher, Mr. Smith, came to gather us up to get on the bus, and his face was crumpled like the handkerchief in his hand, and he was crying. And we were like, Mr. Smith, what's wrong? He said, children, Dr. King was killed today. By the time I was 8, I had already seen those images of the dogs biting the children. I had already seen the hoses sprayed on the children. I had already been beaten up on my playground, had my hair pulled and my face scratched because I was a chocolatey black girl who clearly thought I was white. Because of the way I talked. I had already seen my neighbor dragged out of his house and been beaten with bully sticks because he had a bunch of tickets and the police weren't happy. I had already heard about those 4 little girls in Mississippi who got blown up in a church. I had already seen a lot of violence, but I was traumatized by this shooting. In our South Side Chicago neighborhood, everything erupted into violence. So we came back from that nature center into a city on fire, bullets flying everywhere. And my sister and I hid under our beds for fear of being shot ourselves. That's what I was experiencing. Right before Dr. King was killed, I was at a nature preserve. Right before Dr. King was killed, do you know what he was doing? Well, he had had a bull session with some of his key advisors. Andy Young had gone off to court to make sure that they could get the rights to march again in Memphis, because they had already marched in Memphis. You guys know that story? They had marched in Memphis, and the young folk got rowdy and ran ahead and broke some windows, and King literally got pulled out of the march and thrown into a car to keep him safe. It was a second march, and they were playing it, and Andy had had a successful day at court. When he got back to the Lorraine Motel, Dr. King wrestled him to the ground playfully between the 2 beds in Andy's room and tickled him. And all the other guys jumped on him, and they had a pillow fight. They had a pillow fight. They teased each other, they harassed each other. They were going to some man's house for dinner, and his wife was evidently fine. And Ralph Abernathy said, let me put on some Aramis cologne so she'll find me sexy. And then Dr. King was talking to one of the musicians from the breadbasket movement with Jesse Jackson and said, Yeah, play Precious Lord for me tonight. Play it pretty. Last words from an incredible orator who had said the night before in a big gathering in Memphis, it's no longer a choice between violence and nonviolence in this world. It's violence or non-existence. In that same speech, he said, and that's what this whole thing is about. We're not engaged in any negative protest and in any negative arguments with anybody. We're saying we are determined to be men. We are determined to be people. We're saying that we are God's children. King was in Memphis marching for God's children. 1,300 sanitation workers working in deplorable conditions for no money, and the people who ran the sanitation department didn't want them to organize. Two of the men were hiding out from a thunderstorm that happened the night before this march, and they couldn't take shelter in the white neighborhood where they worked. So they hid in the belly of the garbage truck. And they were crushed to death by the pistons that are meant to smash garbage. King, in the midst of death threats, in the midst of obvious threats to his own life, you guys have heard that famous speech where he says that he's not afraid, he's not fearing any man, he's not worried about anything because his eyes had seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He knew what he was up to, up for, about to encounter. But he was there to stand in for 1,300 of God's children who just needed hope, just needed human rights, just needed to make a living wage, just enough money to put food on their children's table. On December 13th, 2013, 26 of God's children, 20 of them literally children, died in a hail of gunfire at the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. Guns kill people. On that same day in China, a crazy man attacked 23 children with a knife, injured them, but they're still alive. Guns give us space, indifference, and firepower to take out our enemies without having to get up close and personal and fight about it. One child or teen dies or is injured from guns every 30 minutes. What time is it? 6:37. From the time we started our worship tonight till now, a baby died or was shot. Think about that. Gun violence saturates our children's lives. More children and teens die from guns every 3 days, than died in the Newtown massacre. The number of children killed by guns in 2010 that were under the age of 5, you're not going to like this stat. Under the age of 5, the number of children killed by guns in 2010 was higher than the number of law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty that day. We've got to talk about gun violence when we celebrate Dr. King's birthday. King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Trayvon Martin, any number of nameless young men and women and children killed. A 6-year-old named Brian shot and killed by his 4-year-old playmate at a play date. A little boy was given a .22 single-shot rifle designed for children, like, I don't know, not made by Mattel, but something like that. A gun designed for children, a single-shot gun designed for children, and while playing with it, he pointed it at the chest of his 2-year-old sister and shot her dead. A boy named Stephen Curtis grew up in a town in Missouri where hunting and fishing and like all of that is like the whole, deers are too cute for me to shoot. They're cute, I wouldn't want to shoot one, but okay. He had a hunting license. He had been trained in hunting all the way through grammar school because their community, he was a safe hunter. And somehow he got into his father's gun cabinet, and in a gun that was not loaded, one gun in the chamber, and he shoots himself in the head, and he's dead, 15 years old. Our children are caught in a war of bullets. Chicago is having a gun violence epidemic. Our nation is having a gun violence epidemic. Those people who talk about Second Amendment rights that were written in the 16th, 17th century as though somehow that is relevant for today are crazy town. They won't want to put this one up. Does that make any sense to you? We have the right to bear arms. You have the right to bear arms when you come from England across the ocean and the British people are the bad people and they have red coats and you're scared and you have a tea party and, okay, you need to defend your little land and you have to, protect your little homestead that you stole from the Native Americans. Okay. I guess gun violence then, the right to bear arms then had a context. But in this time and place, to make the fight about Second Amendment rights or the right to protect our children, our right to life, I think it's foolish. What do you think? Most Americans believe in common sense gun control. Most people in the NRA believe in common sense gun control. Don't believe the hype. Our children are caught in a war of ideals, a class of values. They're collateral damage in a political system that cares more about protecting guns than our kids, more about lobbying than our kids. And the violence happens way before somebody picks up a gun. That's the top of the violence food chain, so to speak. I watch my daddy beat my mommy. I watch my mommy shake my sister. I sit in a classroom where my teacher doesn't think I mean anything. I'm not valued. I ain't got no brain. Why bother? I watch television, listen to movies, listen to rap, read the media, and I'm just anesthetized pretty soon to the violence in our midst. That's what our children grow up with. Violence to their right to eat 3 squares a day, violence to their right to learn and grow, violence to their right to be safe in their neighborhoods, violence to their right to just grow up and be okay. No wonder they've lost it by the time they're standing on a playground and feeling like they really want that jacket and they should just take it. I'm tired of the stories of the shopping malls and the Sikh temples and the congregations and the alleyways and the classrooms. I'm tired. I don't want to mourn any more slain babies. I don't want to have any more activism I don't want to wear another hoodie, they're hot. I don't want to celebrate any more slain leaders. I want a healed world. I want a whole world. I love this text that Taryn read so well from Micah. It's such an important prophecy that it's in both Isaiah and Micah, written to a people slammed by violence, a people who could also have calluses about violence, written to God's people, the Jewish people. War after war after war after conflict after war. First, it's this Syrians, and then it's the Babylonians, and then they go fight the Canaanites, and right in between conflicts, right somewhere around the Babylonian war and captivity, and right when some emperor named Sennacherib was ready to, encroach on their territory once again, these prophets write these hopeful texts that say, hey, soon and very soon, one day, before this is all over, all of God's people, not the Jewish people, not the Christian people, not the Muslim people, not the pretty people, not the ugly, all of God's people are going to praise God in one voice, love God, be loved by God, understand that they're loved by God enough that it heals their souls, that it eradicates the need to power over somebody, to tromp somebody down and stamp on somebody's heart, because they're going to know they're loved. And when that time comes, Micah's saying, they are going to beat their swords into plowshares. What's a plowshare, you may say? Good question. A sword is a metal blade, and a plowshare is a metal blade. It doesn't take a lot of creativity to turn a sword into a plowshare. You bend it, you turn it, you twist it, you turn it down into the earth. And the sword that is meant for killing becomes a tool meant for tilling the ground so that life can spring forth. Micah is saying that the tools meant for violence, God is going to transform into tools meant for life. People, we are tools that could be tools for violence or tools for life. And Micah's saying that God is going to do all it takes, break our hearts, change our minds, refine us in the refiner's fire, hook us up, capture our imaginations, so we who could be used to violate one another will instead be used to help each other flourish and live and grow. I love it. It's the kind of thing that gets me up in the morning. And what Micah adds that Isaiah is missing is this kind of particularity. There's this universal big vision of justice, but then it gets really particular in the end of Micah's text. They will sit underneath their fig vines, like their backyards with a weeping willow tree, or they will chill by their pond, or they will kick it, at Starbucks. They will sit down in safe places, and they will be safe, and they will have food and shelter and clothing and livelihood, and they will not be hungry, and they will have no need to war. And then Micah closes this way. Those people, Micah says, will be walking in the name of their God. In the name of their fear, or in the name of their greed, or in the name of their stocks and bonds, or in the name of their junk. But we will walk in the name of our God. We will walk in the name of the God of love. I think it could be pretty easy for us to be overwhelmed with the mess our nation's in. And I'm just sticking with the nation because I can't bear to go across the water right now. It can be so overwhelming. In the early black church in this country, the so-called invisible church, the black church in this country, the slave churches, things were so overwhelming that they couldn't even bear to think about earth as a godly place. So there were all these spirituals and all these prayers and all this hope about yonder. We're going to go up yonder. And King alluded to that in one of his speeches. He says, it's all right to talk about long white robes over yonder and all of its symbolism, but ultimately people want some suits and dresses and shoes to wear right here. It's all right to talk about streets flowing with milk and honey, but God has commanded us, he said, to be concerned about the slums down here and his children who can't eat 3 square meals a day right here. It's all right to talk about a new Jerusalem, but one day God's preachers must talk about the new New York, the new Atlanta, the new Philadelphia, the new Memphis, the new Los Angeles. Today, this preacher is talking about a new world. And what I see when I see you, when we gather in places like this tonight, I am convinced that God's justice will not be forever impinged by humans' desire for revenge and retaliation. Look at our interconnected room of strangers made family. When I see you, I'm convinced that God's shalom will not be forever delayed by fear. God's love and justice will in fact refine us in the fire, will mold us and make us, heat us and hammer us and shape us until we are tools for peace. Where there's hatred, I'm sure we're going to sow love. Where we've been injured, I'm convinced that we're going to forgive and pardon one another and make fresh starts and new, clean slates. When there's despair, I'm clear we're going to sow seeds of love. And I think each of us is going to find a place to start, a way to begin, a thing that, torques us and vibrates us and says, this is my entry point. This is what I'm going to do. And for me, I'm going to start with the children. I don't know why DJ is awake enough to be with us on Soul Food Nights. Our little boy. I share this little boy with Natalie and Gary. When DJ walks around the sanctuary and says, "Peace be with you," I'm clear that our children are the stuff of the movement that we're trying to grow. I'm going to start with the kids. Take a look at this.
The children's movement, which we're going to have, is going to depend on us.
I have a voice.
Well, the Children's Defense Fund is for all children. It's the most exciting program of hope and independence for parents and children. Every movement needs a school for training and skills, and Haley Farm is our movement-building home. It's our place where we vision what we want to see for children and then gain the skills and the courage to go out and build it. And we've been training another generation of young people, which is the most exciting thing.
I need training.
I will take the necessary steps.
I am ready.
I am ready to read. I am ready to read. I am ready to read. I am ready.
The Children's Defense Fund's parent organization was born in the middle of the Poor People's Campaign. And it was very clear that children don't come in pieces. We had to address the needs of the whole child.
I need someone to care about me.
To care about me.
And it was wonderful to have 9,000 children marching to talk about health care for every child and to be empowered and see a 7-year-old standing up on Capitol Hill.
I recently learned about the issue of health care in America, and it made me very sad.
A healthy child is a child who is alive, excited about life, safe, vibrant, is in good health, has health care.
I need health care. Health care. Health care.
Is excited about learning, is excited about their future, can see a future and see how they will be able to move beyond today to tomorrow.
I have a future. I have a future. A bright future.
I will make a difference tomorrow.
They are confident, they feel loved and they feel respected.
I will not be abused or neglected.
I will not be abused
Or neglected. I will not go away.
There's something inside of them that's so strong that nobody can touch.
I can speak for myself. I have a voice. A voice. A voice. A voice. I have a voice. Yo tengo voz. I have a voice.
What we're trying to do is to build empowered children, confident children, loved and loving children, and healthy children who are ready to go out and seize and lead the world.
I am not a number. I am not a number. I'm not statistic. I'm not a statistic.
Yo no soy un número. I am not a number.
There are a number of laws that would not be on the books. I think at CDF's reports and lobbying and public education campaigns and organizing would not have made it possible. I'm very proud of the fact that all children go to school. We tend to forget that children were the frontline soldiers in the civil rights movement. It was little Ruby Bridges, 6 years old, who went through the mobs. The Children's Defense Fund is committed to changing the odds and creating a level playing field for every child.
Who can help me stay out of trouble? Who can help me stay out of trouble? Stay out of trouble.
One of us will end up in prison.
I need a plan to succeed.
I need a plan to succeed now.
To succeed now. I need a chance. I need a chance. A chance. I need a chance. Not a handout. Not a handout. Not a handout. I have the potential to be great. I have the potential to be great.
We're trying to pass the torch so that the movement can sustain itself. It doesn't do any good to do new policies if there are not strong servant leaders out there who are going to implement them. And so we're trying to change the paradigm in America, because it is the children of the world who are going to determine the future. I think that this is the most important work, and it's been a privilege to be a part of it.
Today, tomorrow, together. I have a future. Don't give up on me.
We are not going to give up on them. I want to announce to you that it's January 19th, 2014 at a middle church. This is the year of the child. We're going to send Jim and Elisa to the Freedom School training this summer at Haley Farms, and we're going to start us a Freedom School right here. Yes, we are. And we're going to be looking for all of the partners that we can find to mentor children and teens, to teach them how to laugh and dance and play and grow. We're going to import curriculum. We're going to create our own. We're going to work from 0 to 18 and then from 18 to 30 to grow the next movement of leaders. It's Dr. King's birthday, but we're trying to give birth to a movement. You with me? Amen.